JetCast Nation, welcome to episode 18, and it's done. It's finally done. Aaron is a Jet. It feels like it was years and years, but it finally happened. I am Pat. That's Ray. We got Paul and Matt Reynoldson from the Packers beat. Ray, let's start off with you. How did you hear about it? Actually, you heard about it from me. You didn't even know what happened. I called you.
I did. I was in a work meeting. My phone's going off, and of course, I got to look to my boy Pat's text message first. You know, I saw my wife, everybody else, but I went to Pat first, and I seen the news. I was ecstatic. And, you know, it's just, finally this whole saga's over. The whole, he might go to Tennessee. He might go to San Francisco.
He was never going to San Francisco.
He sent an email to the Packers saying it was Jets or nothing. At the end of the day, I know we gave up a lot, but I'm so sick and tired of sitting out every postseason and watching every other team play. I was in high school the last time we made the playoffs, so this trade brings us to relevancy as I see it.
Matt, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, guys, I was in a little bit of surprise when I saw the news at the same time you guys did today, and it happened to be 10 minutes before Brian Gutekunst's press conference that was pre-scheduled to talk about the NFL draft. So I was on my way to that. It's actually my day off, so I was going to it just as more of a I need to be prepared to be an analyst on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So I sometimes, even on my days off, I like to attend press conferences just to get the insight onto that. And luckily, I was going there anyway because, you know, I got the notification on my phone while I was at a stoplight. And it's like, oh, man, Shefty just bombed this. Okay, here we go. And that kind of dominated the whole press conference. It was an exciting day. It was interesting to just see all this go down. And, you know, I'll always remember where I was these two instances between March 15th and, of course, today, April 24th.
Awesome. Paul.
Matt, it's Paul Riley. Thanks again for joining us. It's funny, I thought of you right away because I thought, you were going to speak to him tonight. My question is, from a Jets fan standpoint, I think the Packers got maximum value. I'm not saying the Jets didn't do what they had to do. They had to have Aaron Rodgers. They had no quarterback. I get it. But, boy, I'll tell you, if I'm a Packers fan, a 40-year-old player they no longer wanted, owed $110 million guaranteed left on his contract. They got a first. That's a first-round pick. I mean, he's going to play 65% of the snaps. If he doesn't, he got hurt. But so you got a first, a second, and the equivalent of a third, flipping 13 and 15. And they got away from the money. Although, and this is why I'm bringing it up, there is a story out tonight that he's signing a new contract with Green Bay.
Right.
Do you have any insight to what that is? I have a suspicion, and then I'll let you talk. My suspicion is he's going to turn that bonus into salary for next year, so the Jets don't have some massive cap hits for the remainder of the bonus when he leaves. But I'm just wholly guessing. What's the word out there on the salary?
Yeah, I think you're in the ballpark with that, and it would be speculation for me to figure out and piece together the information I have of what that new contract is going to look like. But I think the bigger thing is that, you know, the trade compensation, and, you know, we got to this point, and I think it, you know, like everybody wants to say fleeced one way or fleeced the other way. I think it works out because the key thing going into all of this, and it's what we learned at the NFL owners meetings, it's what we had heard from the very beginning, is the Jets didn't want to give up a first-round pick. And I know moving back from 13 to 15 is a little scary just because of the need for offensive tackle, but 13 to 15 is not that big of a difference. And if it helped get this done before the draft, you know, 42 was not a pick the Jets were counting on anyway. You know, got it as kind of a bonus with the Elijah Moore trade. So, you know, moving back 2 spots, and I know that Patriots pick at 14 is scary, but moving back 2 spots and then giving up a pick you weren't going to have anyway, and then the conditional 2024, this is really just giving up the conditional 2024, and you got to move up in this year's draft to that 5th round spot instead of the 6th round spot because of it. I think this is a win for the Jets, and I think it's certainly a win for the Packers getting this done and the condition as well. I think it's better that it's based on participation instead of being based on performance because you never know. And I saw Connor Hughes from SNY bring this up earlier today on Twitter, is that, you know, if the Jets had if the Jets went for this deal, with the particular conditions that were laid out, I think they got some sort of guarantee that Rodgers is going to be there for more than 1 year.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would only make sense. Yeah.
This was definitely, I feel like, the plan right from the get-go when they got rid of LaFleur.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was driven by Woody Johnson. And I said it back on one of our first recordings. I think I remember saying, like, you want big splash, you go Aaron Rodgers. And the two of you, obviously not Matt, but the two of you poo-pooed it like, oh, that's not going to happen. Now here we are on the 24th of April, and he's our quarterback. What do you guys feel is the temperature right now of the fan base? Because I feel like I'm getting a lot of 50-50, right? A lot of people ecstatic, a lot of people crushing or giving us heat for what we gave up. I could care less what we gave up. This is a 4-time MVP, 2 times in the last 3 years. I mean, the roster of famous, or the roster of great Jets quarterback goes Namath, Ken O'Brien, Richard Todd, right? That's not exactly a great list for a top.
Well, I'd throw Testaverde in there. Testaverde had one of the greatest seasons in Jets history in '97.
I would agree, but I'm just going by stats and I guess by numbers. Those are the top 3, and that's not a great
Matt,
list.
what is the to the extent you've been able to in these few hours, gather the fan base in Green Bay? What are they feeling about this? I think they have to be, melancholy because they're giving up Rodgers, but happy with what they got.
Yeah, absolutely. And most people have moved on from this. It was done here emotionally at least a month ago. March 15th was that moment. It's where all the news stations ended up running our specials, ran, our kind of planned content of the Rodgers says goodbye. Here we're building out all our content for that. And then today was just the, okay, perfect. We have all of this other content that we were going to run anyway. And it just happens to be on the day that the general manager talks and was pre-scheduled to talk for his pre-draft press conference. So it worked out great. And, I don't think people were really too emotional about this today, as opposed to just the finality of it all. There was a little bit of melancholy feeling here, just because he's the longest tenured player in franchise history, and that's something that Packer fans are going to have to get used to, seeing him in a different color green. But as far as the trade compensation received, I think people are very happy with Brian Gutekunst, and it really helped. I asked Brian a couple times at this press conference today how his relationship with Joe Douglas contributed to this process and helped this process out. And he was very complimentary of Joe, and how open he was through this whole thing, how they've been willing to work together. He called them both scouts by trade, and so they both knew how important this upcoming draft was, how important it was to figure out the compensation before the draft. And I think most of the negotiations and the communications and everything like that were amicable the whole time. And if communications stalled, quote unquote, like some of the national reports indicate, they didn't really stall. It wasn't like both sides digging their heels in. It was both Brian and Joe saying, we got other things to worry about this month. We're getting ready for the draft. We got our entire scouting department to get together, and we've got our board to put together. Let's table this for a few weeks, table it amicably, then get back to it when it makes sense for both of us.
And I'm sure you have the NFL putting their thumb on the scale too. The NFL's got to get their schedule together, right? They need to know where Aaron Rodgers is playing.
Yeah, maybe a little bit, but I don't think they force the hand of trades like this.
Well, I'm sure.
Don't you think also, Matt, that again, you weren't there. You were back in Nebraska, 18 years ago. But the Green Bay fans have seen this movie once, and it worked.
Mm-hmm.
They moved on from a Hall of Fame, incredibly popular player in Brett Favre for a guy who had not looked very good in those 3 preseasons in Aaron Rodgers, and it worked out pretty well for them. I think that would be in the back of my mind. I'm like, well, I'll trust the process here because it's worked once before. I think it's a very unique situation in that regard. They have absolutely seen this exact thing happen once before, and it worked out pretty well.
Well, it's swept under the rug just a little bit. It's worth noting just how rocky that summer was and how weird the year of 2008 was in Green Bay. And that was brought up a little bit a few times in today's press conference. But something that struck me was Gutekunst said several times that he had no worry of things trickling into that long past the draft or trickling into August or, having this be a firestorm or a whirlwind where both sides were digging in their heels and trying to figure out leverage and things like that and being a distraction to both teams' seasons. He didn't see that happening and was fairly confident with his answer. Didn't go into many details as, GMs and team officials like to dance around things as they have the right to. But it struck me really that he had no doubts that it was going to be done in enough time, whether it was before the draft or immediately after or in the few weeks following, maybe around that June 1st deadline, who knows. But he was very confident that this would not drag into being a distraction following into the summer.
And I want to talk to one point really quick because, I was on Jets Twitter all throughout after everything happened. Our friend Petey Pablo had a space right afterwards, and I'm listening to all these Jet fans listen to the compensation coming in because at first we didn't know what the compensation was. Sure. And I'm hearing all these Jet fans jump off a ledge as if I think that because Joe Douglas got Elijah Moore out of here, sent him to Cleveland. You saw the Jamal Adams trade. Blake Cashman, he got a 5th-round pick for. The guys made a glass. All these great trades that he pulled off. Everybody just assumed that the Packers were going to get fleeced. Let me explain something to Jet fans really quick. The guy's won MVP 2 out of the last 3 years.
Yeah.
So saying, a quarterback that's on the decline. The decline you're telling me is 3,700 yards, 28 touchdowns, and 12 interceptions while he's playing with a broken thumb and his number one receiver is Alan Lazard? What are we talking about? You're adding this guy who's just 1 year removed from MVP, giving him his best weapon, arguably his best weapon in Green Bay, giving him Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall, 2 legitimate tight ends, and now probably a legitimate offensive line that we're going to be adding to this season. Oh, and let's just throw in a top 5 defense on the other side that's got the reigning Rookie of the Year, All-Pro, on that side of the ball. So he's coming into a completely different situation. He's not going to be asked to play the hero ball that he was asked to play last year. Can you speak to that a little bit, Matt? Because I feel like so many Jet fans we gave up the 1st-round pick. Essentially, we gave up a 1, 2, and a 3 because Elijah Moore got us that too. So we pretty much traded Elijah Moore, which was a comp for a 3rd-round pick. So it was a 1, 2, and a 3 that we gave up for a chance to not only make the playoffs, but go beyond probably the next 2 years. We went, I watched our odds. We were plus 2,600 before this draft. It went to plus 1,200 to win the Super Bowl. It was more than cut in half once we got him. That was just top 5 in the NFL per odds maker. So just speak to that. Help me talk some of these Jet fans off the ledge because they all think that he's washed or on the decline.
No, he's an absolute catalyst. He played most of last year with a broken thumb. The end of the season, he played with probably a broken rib, even though he didn't admit it to us. I mean, they were severely bruised. Maybe he had a rib cartilage thing like Justin Herbert went through early in last year, but he had to leave that Philadelphia game on Thanksgiving weekend because of that. And that's when we saw the flash of Jordan Love in the 4th quarter and got everybody excited about what the future looks like in Green Bay. But Rodgers was hurt all last year and was still showing flashes of absolute brilliance. This guy is a catalyst for your room. He is someone that knows how to win at the highest level, has injected life into a franchise. Now, the problem with doing that in Green Bay after being there for 18 years is that I don't want to say people here take it for granted, but both sides, I would say, at some points take the day-to-day, take the intricacies of it for granted. So Rodgers takes for granted maybe that he can kind of own the franchise here and do what he wants with the plays and audible and check out of any given thing. Green Bay takes for granted that they have this unbelievable quarterback that can make every throw in the book and can win you ball games when you don't play well in any other facet. So I think that's where things may have gotten a little stale here, but it doesn't take anything away from the fact that he is an absolute catalyst for your franchise. And I don't think that this is just me getting on my soapbox a little bit here. I've never understood why fans care so much about compensation as far as salary and
lottery tickets,
draft compensation for trades. I mean, you're not making the picks. Some of the best players in this league have gone undrafted or been day 3 picks, day 2 picks, things like that. And I know it's the marriage of college to pro. You get the best prospects in the top round. But if you're good at drafting, and the Jets have proven time and time again, this front office has proven to be a really good drafting front office, it shouldn't matter that much whether you're picking at 28 or you're picking at 35, or the little splitting hairs 15 to 13 here, because studies show and history shows that half the first round will be a bust every single year. The Packers got a set first round pick in 2024 out of this. That's what they wanted. That's probably what they deserved, to be honest. And he's going to play 65% of snaps. That's not going to be a premium first-round pick. It's going to be somewhere in the 20s, because the Jets will make the playoffs with Aaron Rodgers as their quarterback and this roster. He was the only piece that this team needed to be successful, to be a contender, because the defense has a bunch of young stars. You're not paying the defense a bunch of money until you pick Quinnen Williams. The offense, you got an offensive rookie of the year. You got Breece Hall coming back strong. You could add to the offensive line, but you got pieces there as well. I mean, there is so much to like about this Jets roster. And for the one thing that they needed, which was a quarterback who can be an adult in the room, can come in, be a catalyst, be a guy who knows how to win, I think for this trade, for what was needed on both sides, I think it was fair what was given up.
Think about this team was 6-3 at one point last year. Mike White, and Joe Flacco at the helm.
Yep.
I'm watching the best comeback week 2 against the Browns, probably in our franchise's history.
NFL history.
Right, close to the NFL history, for crying out loud.
Patriots
I'm
have
looking
a
at
thing about
Joe
that.
Well, the amount of time left in the game.
Yeah. How many points we scored in such little time? But Joe Flacco, and I'm like, it's such day and night from where we ended the season to where we are now. I mean, the last week of the season, I'm watching my starting quarterback, his kids are wearing the opposing team's jersey.
Yeah.
His 2 kids show up in Tyreek Hill jerseys to the Dolphins game. I'm like, what clown show are we running? And I understand the personality that Aaron Rodgers brings to this team, and the off the field stuff. I don't care. I just want to win so bad. I'm sure Paul, as a 40-year season ticket holder, you just want to see winning football. We deserve to have a freaking home game in the playoffs and listen to that stadium roar. It has been forever. I might have been in middle school the last time we had that, for crying out loud. So it's like, if you're a Jet fan, like Matt said, stop worrying so much about the compensation. The great teams are made in the 3rd, 4th, and 5th rounds of the NFL draft. It's proven. There's science to it. There's guys like Richard Sherman who are drafted late like that. James Harrison. We got Breece Huff that was undrafted. Years ago we got Robbie Anderson undrafted. That's what makes your team, is those middle tier picks. Of course, you get the Sauce Gardners when you know that you're drafting that high, but we're not planning on drafting high after this year. So like what Matt was saying, if it costs you the 26th overall pick in the draft and we get to say the AFC Championship game, you're telling me for a team that has missed the playoffs for over a decade, it's not worth it to have relevancy here?
Ray,
I just don't understand that.
Love what you're saying here, and I want to interject as well. You make a great point with what is this team right now? Will the 26th overall pick, if it is that, affect next year's team? It won't. The window.
We're so young.
You're trading for the window. The team is trading for the window, and it kept the first-round pick this year. That was the big thing that both Joe Douglas and really, to be honest, Brian Gutekunst alluded to at the NFL owners meetings is, they kind of both understood that the 13th pick, just a straight-up one for nothing trade, was not going to be a part of this deal, because the Jets need a first-round pick this year in the middle of that first round to fortify this year's roster and next year's roster. A 2024 first-round pick, if it is in that 23 to 27 range, as you said, that's not going to really bolster the Super Bowl window for 2024. This year's pick is. So they kept the important pick, and next year's is, it's gravy.
And to give you an idea about, I was just trying to count it in my head. The Jets franchise, going back to the Titans years, they've existed 62 years. They started in 1960. They've had 9 home playoff games. Let that sink in. They've played 9 home playoff games.
It's more than double my whole life.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of them. I didn't see the ones in 68 and 69, but other than that, I've seen them all, and I remember many of them. So, Yeah, this is going to really fire up, obviously, the fan base, and of course, I think the players. The players want to win, and a lot of them are, I'm sure, in awe of the fact that they're going to be in the locker room and on the same team with Aaron Rodgers. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It's not going to be,
we're in this position.
Easy.
We're in this position right now because the last two drafts, Joe Douglas was able to hit on them, right? So we don't need as many holes. We don't have as many holes as we did when he first came in, right?
Well, they had, but to be fair, they had to make this trade because he missed on the number 2 pick 2 years ago.
Besides that, I'm talking about other blue chip pieces that are actually contributing to this team. You know, we're at the point now where we don't have to do an entire roster overhaul. You know, that has happened already. So, you know, when Joe Douglas was first hired, he clearly had a plan, and maybe obviously at that point, there's no way he could have thought Aaron Rodgers was gonna be part of the plan. But you know, the drafting and the talent evaluation has been phenomenal, and it's been, you know, the best that I've seen. You know, since
Aaron Rodgers really did force this because he, you know, it sounds like even if Green Bay was looking to move on, I mean, he could have said, I want to go to the Raiders. I want to go to San Francisco. Whatever. I don't think there would have been other teams. It's just interesting that he did choose the Jets. Have you heard what about the Jets other than the obvious young talent sort of made him think, hey, that's a place I might want to go?
Yeah, look, I think this was always going to be a situation where the writing was on the wall to some extent. He couldn't have picked the Niners. Just throwing that out there. Green Bay would have absolutely never traded him to San Francisco. I mean, unless they were getting an absolute an absolute haul back, there is just no scenario where they would have, you know, dug their own grave by trading him to the team that they can't beat in the postseason. I mean, the Niners have been a thorn in Green Bay's side for a long time. They weren't going to trade him into the NFC. So the real options were Las Vegas and New York. And there were a few other possibilities. You know, Tennessee could have pursued hard and, you know, maybe made a play. You know, there's a couple other teams in the AFC where, you know, might have been worth a look at some point. But I think Rodgers is a smart guy, obviously. And I think this came to fruition because it was, okay, the writing's on the wall a little bit. You know, we've made this decision while you're in your darkness retreat. Maybe we want you to seek other opportunities. And he sought out something that was, you know, an obvious choice with a young roster that he saw come into Lambeau and beat the Packers last year. And I think it was an obvious choice for all involved, a quarterback needy team. Not a lot of pieces needed to be moved around. Two GMs that had a relationship, although to be fair, Brian Gutekunst has a good relationship with a lot of GMs around this league. I mean, he's a straight shooter. He has pretty good will around this league from what I've seen and what I saw in Phoenix at the owners' meetings. So this was an obvious situation, and it was a situation where it was always going to be a chance for Rodgers to say, all right, this is completely my decision. Because, you know, the franchise gains nothing in keeping an element of pride with that. You know, let the 18-year quarterback, let the longest tenured player in franchise history have the autonomy with this, because it's not easy to move jobs, to move situations after creating your identity in one place and having said multiple times that he wanted to finish his career in Green Bay. So give him the autonomy to make this his decision. And the Packers were more than willing to do that. And I think that's kind of how this all came to fruition. But of course, the Jets having that roster and having that, the ability to be the immediate competitor, a la Tom Brady going to Tampa Bay, I think that, you know, helps the situation quite a bit.
Yeah, this will be my last point. Because I'm looking at Jets Twitter. I just can't believe the meltdowns people are having. Well, I'm just going to explain it to you this way. The Jets got more for a box safety, 2 first-round picks, a third-round pick, and a starting freaking safety for Jamal Adams than they're giving up for the guy who won 2 out of the last 3 MVPs and instantly makes us a top 7 or 8 favorite in the NFL to win a Super Bowl. Really think about that. We got a top 10 pick from Seattle, an additional first-round pick, a third-round pick, and Doug Middleton, who started for us, for Jamal freaking Adams as safety, and all we're giving up is a 2, a 1, and essentially a third-round pick. So 1, 2, and a 3. We got 2 2s, a 3, and a starting safety. And don't forget, we swapped that late-round pick where we're going to move up into the 5th round. They're taking our 6th-round pick this year. So don't forget about that value either. It's not even close.
Really good this year, too. 5th round, it is such a deep draft, and so a lot of people are targeting that 5th round. So Goody told us today that the board sort of thins out in the 3rd and 4th round, so a lot of teams tend to miss on those 3rd and 4th round picks. 5th round, super high value this year.
That's an interesting point. I'm glad you mentioned that. We wouldn't have known that, but based on what he told you guys today. Before I know we've had you for a while. Before we let you go, what was the overwhelming sense you got from, if any, from the coaching staff in Green Bay? I'm curious to see how they felt about this.
Yeah, so the most insight I got was talking to Matt LaFleur at the NFL owners meetings down in Phoenix, and just getting a feel for, what he was looking forward to, what he's worried about, what the things that are making him tick this offseason are. And I think he's really looking forward to the challenge. I think he's really looking forward to building this offense in a different way that truly runs the system that they have built, and that has been proven around the NFL with now Hackett, but also guys like Kyle Shanahan, and this power gap sort of run first to set up the pass, prioritizing the outside zone schemes, just a lot of different multiple things that create the character of this offensive system. So I think he's genuinely excited to build that and attack the challenges of coming around to a new quarterback, but also just appreciative of Rodgers. He said without saying it in Phoenix that basically Aaron's made a lot of people a lot of money over the years by being a brilliant thrower of the football, maybe the greatest thrower of the football in NFL history, and just a spectacular quarterback, a unique leader, a stellar winner, and someone who is optimistic in the toughest times and grounded in the most exciting times. He's someone that will keep things a little more even than they seem from the outside. It's someone that can turn a team that had a 5-game losing streak, turn them into a 4-game winning streak on the precipice of making the playoffs. And who knows if this is a different conversation if they do beat Detroit in that final game. But I think the coaching staff knows that this quarterback has done so much for the Green Bay Packers franchise and helped carry on a legacy of 30 years with 2 Hall of Fame quarterbacks in Green Bay. And I think they are, while ready to move on, are appreciative of how they've been able to get their start, been able to hit the ground running with this stellar future first ballot Hall of Fame quarterback.
All right. Well, Matt,
that's pretty well said.
Matt, I know you're very busy, so I want to thank you for coming on with us tonight. Where can people find you if they want to give you a follow?
Yeah, so I'm at Matt_Reynoldson on Twitter. Still working for WFRV in Green Bay, sports anchor there. So we'll have draft coverage coming through social media channels throughout the week. I'll be, of course, interested to see what the Jets end up doing at that 15th pick. I think offensive tackle, but who knows at this stage, because first round of the draft, especially those middle picks, they're such a crapshoot because GMs like to focus on best player available as opposed to position of need. So we'll see where they go, but I have no doubt they're going to get an amazing pick. So I'll certainly be following the Jets stuff and everything like that. And it'll be exciting to see what the Packers do with number 13 and number 42. And in a draft where they need a lot of positions, need a lot of guys to come in and contribute right away to give Jordan Love the best chance to win. So excited to cover this week. Excited for the whirlwind of Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then we'll see if the Bucs host a Game 7 on what would that be, Sunday?
Yeah, I think it would be.
Yeah. So we'll see. Well, if that
listen, thanks again. We really appreciate it. Twice you've helped us out, and the fans here are getting to know you, and if you end up in a different market than Green Bay, I'm sure they'll follow you then too.
I appreciate that, and happy to come on anytime, guys. Love talking to you.
Thanks a lot.
Take care.